Hi, welcome to the Toilet Paper Diaries. In today's episode, we're going to be covering the Super Bowl. We're going to give you loads of real great tips on content creation, and we'll be sharing with you how it doesn't matter what age you are, you can still knock it out of the park when you're on the internet. What do we mean? Find out with the Toilet Paper Diaries.
Hi, Dave. We are now getting to episode 87. We've been almost 1 year doing this show. Can you believe that?
I can believe it because I was living every second of every moment of that year. What I can't believe is that we are still in lockdown. The world is still frozen. And we've kind of got used to it. We did not expect it to be this long, and we didn't expect it to be the new normal. And it is clearly, in fact, to the point where we don't even call it the new normal. It's just life.
Yeah, it's just life. Well, I mean, you just had your vaccination, which I think it's awesome. I mean, I'm still very far away from getting mine. How are you feeling?
I keep falling asleep all the time, so it's a good job I didn't fall asleep while driving the car. In fact, there's a little story I can share with you about how I got my vaccination and got to the front of a queue. Lateral thinking, by the way, because there's huge queues. I'm based in Dubai, and there's massive queues to get in, and people were pushing and shoving because everyone came down early. And bless them, at the clinic I was going to, they couldn't keep up with everybody because they hadn't even opened the doors, and they couldn't open it because it would have been a rush of people pushing through. So I'm there with my wife and my daughter, and we just decide that's it. I'm not going to be in this queue. No social distancing. Not the fault of a clinic, just because people are pushing and trying to get in. So I came back the next day when it was quiet, and I took with me a megaphone. One of those things that you hold up when you want to talk to people on the sports field or make announcements. And I called over the manager and said, right, this is for you and your staff. Is a special gift that you can use next time you're packed and people are pushing, just to retain order. You can then announce what to do and get people in lines, and it's going to make your job so much easier. I said, I don't want anything. I'll come back tomorrow. He said, when you come back, tell these security guards who you are, ask for me, and we'll let you in. That was this morning. So I came back with my wife, and we basically went to the security, and they said, right, coming in, no problem. We sat there in an empty waiting room. I was the first person to get vaccinated. I was out of there in half an hour. So it just goes to show sometimes there's better ways of doing things than you would have thought. And that leads us in to the Super Bowl, Tom Brady, and a really exciting episode.
Absolutely. I think, well, you know, it's a tradition. I know that it's very American. However, I mean, this has gone across boundaries and across different frontiers and borders and whatever it is. The Super Bowl has two very important things. One of them is, of course, the game, which, I mean, I'm not really too much of a football fan. However, the story that happened this year was incredible with Tom Brady. I mean, he was indirectly displaced from his team last year, from the Patriots. His contract was not renewed. There were a lot of things. There was a lot of politics there. He was not really getting along with the manager or owner of the Patriots, and suddenly he moves to Tampa, and he wins. So this is just incredible, that story.
Let's put this in perspective. He wins last year with who?
With the Patriots, with the New England Patriots.
So New England Patriots win with Tom Brady as the quarterback.
That was 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Last year, the one that won was Mahomes, the same guy that he was competing right now against.
It was a mega showdown. So Brady wins 2 years ago. Mahomes wins last year. They get rid of Brady. He goes to another team that's not so big. He takes them to the finals against Mahomes. So it's the 2 years in natural playoff, and Brady wins.
And kicks their butt. I mean, it was not only a win, it was 31-9. I mean, it just really kicked his butt. But the funny thing is, the first time that Tom Brady won a Super Bowl, Pat Mahomes was 6 years old. So I mean, he almost had doubles his age.
So he's picking on the kids. Now this is it's like a Rocky film, isn't it? To have that kind of story playing out in real life. I mean, I don't know Tom Brady. I'm British, so I don't have as much knowledge of the American sports scene. But that's one where traditionally he would have been played by Kevin Costner in his prime, would have played Tom Brady, and you know exactly what kind of movie you're going to watch. But this is real life, which is what makes it such a fascinating story. And I think there's a massive analogy for that and what people should be considering with the internet. Today's show is a number of different things. Do you want to talk about what today's show is about?
Yeah, well, we have been having now for the past 7 episodes, we have been sharing with you all these secret toilet paper diaries that we shared only with our inner circle, with our inner sanctum, with our inner clients. And right now we are releasing all of them. And this is our last episode about this, because now we have really delivered all the content that we created through the very beginning of the pandemic. Now, you would have thought, well, this is going to be applicable possibly for the past 2 or 3 months. But right now, we have gone 1 year, and I think every single thing that we're going to be talking about today, it's going to be incredibly applicable. So this clip was recorded on, I think it was May 2020. And it is about how you as a speaker, how you as an expert can create content on the internet to get great attention. We're also going to be seeing some small clips of Gary Vaynerchuk. Have a look. I have a great video from one of my favorite and craziest mentors and marketers. And I have had the opportunity to meet him a few times, and he's as intense in his videos as he normally is in his real life. You have also met him, Dave. And this is Gary V. And this is exactly what he's saying, because you're right now saying, well, you have done it, the toilet paper diaries, this and that and the other, but how am I going to do it? I mean, I have a restaurant, or I have a brick and mortar business, or I have a salon. Well, here it is. This is exactly what you need to do so that you understand where the ball is going. Have a look.
This is the time to tell your story. I would make 50 to 100 videos of why we started the restaurant, how long we've been here, how I negotiated the lease, my favorite customers, war stories, classic stories, every dish. Like, this is the time to tell the world your story. I think of it right now as this. I think the coronavirus has caused us all to be into one huge virtual campfire in the fucking 1300s. So we need to go around and tell each other our stories, which is what we used to do. Pre-television, pre-fucking everything, radio. We used to sit around and tell fucking stories from the fucking heart and from the brain. And I think every small business right now needs to tell their story, why they started their business, how they started their business, war stories, AKA bad things that have happened, hero stories, AKA great things that happened, and then go in the detail of their business. I would walk around my fucking restaurant and be like, here's why we picked these chairs. I didn't have any fucking money. I bought them at a garage sale. Oh, this sign came from, tell the world your story in the form of 50 videos. The end. I think everybody should do that.
100%. Yeah, I agree. We've already been talking to some people like that. Grab your phone, go out in front of your restaurant. We're open, right? Take them on a tour. Like you said, take them through the restaurant, show them all the chairs sitting up on the tables, right? And tell their story, show the kitchen, show the food, all those ideas. Yeah.
And for all the owners that are watching right now who are introvert and they're like, fuck, I can't do that. I'm too scared of the camera. I don't like the way I look. Use an employee, inevitably, obviously we need social distancing. So maybe they need to be 6 feet away from you. But if your cook's funny, if your maitre d's charismatic, if a busboy who's been with you for 6 weeks just happens to be good at gift of gab, maybe, a lot of people, my dad, for example, needs me to be on camera with him and then he's good, but he doesn't like it or is not as capable solo. So maybe you're the owner and you just need a second person to bounce off of, because it's, you got to find the way that you become comfortable, but you have to put out content and communicate. It is everyone's sitting at home and you're one viral video away from changing your business. And more importantly, you put them on YouTube and you're one even if you never go viral, if you make one video about your Greek salad that kind of does well on search results in your area, in a year from now, you might be getting 15 new customers a month just because of the one Greek salad video you made that happened to do well on YouTube or Google. TikTok is a huge opportunity right now. You know, like, just get creative, get silly, but this is about doing over dwelling. Right now, 98% of people are going to dwell. And the 2% that do and make and create and go on offense and realize it's an opportunity will succeed 10x. And that's the way the game is played.
Yeah, 100%.
The creators over the criers.
Wow, what a way of framing exactly what the challenges are for everybody around the world. I mean, the news has become so pathetic about all the things going on that everyone's saying is terrible. It's just not worth watching anymore. I love that video. Gary Vee is just a genius of sharing straight to the point what you need to do. I could watch this guy forever. Brilliant.
A few lessons that we need to get from there. First of all, there's 98% of the people are going to dwell, 2% are going to take action. Let me ask you a question. During these 102 days that we have been in quarantine, how many videos have in lockdown? How many videos have you done? 1, 2, 5? Just bear in mind, we have done 518 videos. Do you think that puts us ahead of the game? What was he saying? Possibly, right now, it's not going to really be representing a big thing. But what's going to happen is that's going to actually multiply to 10x. So you cannot really keep on waiting and dwelling on what's going to continue happening. You have to start creating content. Now, as I was saying, I keep on studying to see what's going to be happening. And of course, I mean, I love seeing what other people are doing. I mean, I've seen Rick Sheffren. I've seen a number of people which are understanding how important this is. And I found this other video, which was done before the pandemic started. It was actually at the very end of 2019. But I mean, you can see how Gary Vee was completely right in his prediction. And he mentions that this is the word that is going to change the way that you will be looked at in the virtual world. Have a look.
What's scary about the way I go about business and what I believe I see with the businesses that are most winning in the world is it's super basic. Just nobody wants to do it. It'd almost be like if I was standing up here talking about health and wellness. My friends, if you want to get into better shape, here's how you do it. Stop eating shit and work out every day. Thank you very much. See you later, Brazil. That would be the whole talk. That is no different than how I see business today. Obviously, you have to have a product and service, but the reality is very simply, the formula is as basic as it is in fitness. If you are not producing content, and when I say content, just to put this into context for everybody, next week is my birthday. I've had my team work for the last month. We've made a deck, a couple 100 pages deck. We're gonna give it away for free. It shows you how to make 60-something pieces of content in a day. The reality is the requirement of how much content that I'm looking for you to produce to achieve what you're about numbers that look like 30, 40, 50, 60 pieces of content a day. Most of the businesses and people in here are putting out one piece of content a day on a good day. Maybe 3 a week. If you're a personal brand, you're killing it and posting 4 things a day. There is nobody that is achieving the volume. If you want to write down one word and stick it in your mirror from this whole talk, the word is volume. This is a volume warfare. When people hear volume, they hear quantity. When they hear quantity, they don't think that you can make quality. They think it's a friction between quantity and quality. I believe that the world has grossly overvalued production quality and made that quality not the story or the context of the message. And so as we have spent the last 30 to 50 years putting production value on a pedestal as quality, we have put ourselves in a position to not value context and the actual story. And in that is the rub and the opportunity.
If you decide to be one of the 2% which are actually taking action and not dwelling, and you understand the importance of actually creating content, that's going to change your business in the short, medium, and long term. If you can have 3 to 4 videos uploaded to YouTube on a daily basis, you are creating a massive library of videos. So right now we are building to the future while nobody's doing this. Nobody, I mean, everybody where we look around, nobody's creating the amount of content that they need to be creating to be living in cyber world. And that's the important part of it.
So there we go. Great clip. And interesting there, talking about underpriced attention and overpriced attention when you look at what people are spending their money on. Because every single year when you get the Super Bowl, you have those incredibly expensive ads. What, $5 million is it for like a 30-second ad? But if you can get the right audience and they're ready to buy and you've got everyone talking about it, then it's worth that investment to really get that audience to be inspired by what you do. And I think that right now, it's quite interesting to look back at a clip like that of what we were talking about a year ago, because people who are shrugging off, oh, the pandemic's not going to last, are now embracing those ideas and saying, well, maybe we should be doing something like that. And the older you are, we've said for a long time, the more effective you can be online, because you're now dealing with a global audience that really wants the knowledge and the expertise that you bring to the table.
Yeah, it's true. It is the attention. So now, how are you going to be getting the attention? How are you going to be creating that kind of content? And you know, yesterday I was watching an interview with, what's the name of this guy? The bald guy from Shark Tank. Anyway, I don't remember what his name is, but I was watching this.
Damon.
No, it's not Damon. This is the other guy. But I mean, suddenly his name.
Okay.
Just well, it doesn't matter. But he was just saying how important it is right now. He is investing in hiring people that know how to tell stories. And for how long, Dave, have we been saying? And this was yesterday. I mean, this is, and then this video that we're going to show you is about 11 months old. For how long have we been saying?
Kevin O'Leary. Is it
Kevin O'Leary? That's the name. That's
all right.
Thank you. Yeah, it looks terrible sometimes when you say, what's the name of this bald guy?
Just Google bald guy Shark Tank Kevin O'Leary. Okay. Sorry, what was the question?
So no, he was just saying that it was incredibly important right now if you were going to be hiring people or you're going to be working with people, it had to be people that know how to tell stories and how to tell stories with video. Now, this is now. For how long have we been saying this, Dave?
We've been saying it for a very, very long time, because I think video is the currency people should be playing with more than anything. See, right now, I'm spending a lot of time on Clubhouse, which is a huge app, and it's exploding amongst the iPhone users, and it's got a lot of big celebrities now jumping on. We've recently had Elon Musk, Gary Vaynerchuk, people like Les Brown are on regularly, and Malcolm Gladwell, and a load of really big names. But I still think that video is the battleground that people should be embracing, because there's so much more to it when you can see who it is you're talking to. And if you can tell a story, and it's great to have people's imagination play with it, but if you can visualize it, then it doesn't matter who you're talking to, everybody takes away something. And that's ultimately why the movie industry is so incredible, because people can then embrace stories and visuals that go together with it. And I think that the martial art to learn in business has to be storytelling. If you tell people facts and figures, last year we had a turnover of, X amount of money, and we managed to boost on what we did 2 years ago because we made an investment, blah, blah. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. First of all, they want to know what's in it for them, but they also want to have a story that they can relate to. So if you say last year, one of our clients was a guy who had a paint factory. And the thing about the paint factory was we're having a lot of problems managing to reach their audience because some of the bigger boys were really difficult to work with. So we came along, we changed our advertising campaign, and we looked at their target market, which was hotels. Now, we talked to other hotels, did our research, and Jim, who's the boss of the paint factory, came back to us and said, now he owns a relationship with all the hotels in the vicinity, and it's boosted his business by 10 times what he did the year before. And so Jim will stay with us for life. So you should look out for a Jim for you in your business. Now, I made this up as I go along, but isn't it amazing how your visuals are identifying this character and you're thinking what it means to me? Telling it as a story is what we were growing up to do from when we were very small. That's why it goes straight in. And when you can bring in emotion and sadness and happiness and some kind of celebration, it lights up all the different parts of your brain so you retain that story. So when people ask you, what's that paint business like? Let me tell you about Jim. He's a manager. This is what happened. And you could tell the story now just from what I made up. So storytelling is really the martial art we should all be learning.
We are right now in an era where the most thing we can do is storytell. Tell the story about what we are doing. For us, this opportunity of having done the toilet paper diaries and right now Fast Forward has given us the opportunity to tell the story of what has happened throughout the pandemic. How has everybody been feeling? We have been using music. We have been using clips. We have been using education. We have had a laugh. Every time that we were there on the show, we were really having a great time. And now the important question is, well, how is this going to be really translated into business? The number one skill that we need to learn in order for us to survive from now on, it's going to be storytelling.
Story Brand by Donald Miller. In building a story brand, Donald Miller guides you through a framework to help you clarify your message so customers will listen. These days, it's desperately hard to get anybody's attention. The average consumer encounters 3,000 commercial messages a day, and most of them get ignored. In building a story brand, Donald Miller introduces us to a powerful framework that has been getting and keeping people's attention for thousands of years. If you want to get attention for your prospects, services, or for yourself, the author teaches you how by using a powerful story formula. Here's an example. Kyle Schultz was a photographer who created a course to teach parents how to take better photos of their kids. He launched with $28,000 in sales. His message was the power of photography in the hands of parents. After working through the story brand framework, his messaging evolved to, we help parents take better pics, and the copy on his website went from 1,000 words down to less than 200 words. Instead of telling a confusing story, Kyle invited customers into a story. The result? His second launch to the same email list produced $103,000 in sales. Don't think for a second this book is about learning to tell your story. In fact, the author argues that telling your story is a great way to go bankrupt. Instead, try inviting customers into a story. Companies need to understand that the brand is not the hero. The customer is the hero. That's the only way to engage them. And the brand's role is to guide the hero successfully through their challenges. You want your brand to be the Yoda to Luke Skywalker, your customer. So how do you accomplish this? How do you invite a customer into a story? Every memorable story is built on a simple framework. A hero has a problem, meets a guide who gives them a plan, and calls them to action. Failure would be devastating, but the guide navigates the hero to success. Take any blockbuster movie and you'll see this framework applies. Most companies waste enormous amounts of money trying to tell their story. The truth is, nobody cares. But every human being wants to be invited into a story. They want you to offer them a vision of a better life, help them overcome challenges, act as their guide, and take them to a climactic scene in which their story ends happily. Start by going to your homepage. Are you making the story about you or the customer? As you're reading the book, take notes along the way. Brainstorm and craft a clearer message for your brand, and then update all your communications. Your marketing should invite your customer into a story. If it doesn't, you're certainly losing thousands of dollars, and you might even be losing millions.
Wow, what an amazing video. That's the best explanation I've heard about storytelling and the hero's journey. Brilliant. Really enjoyed watching that because it's really difficult to get people to explain it or understand it properly, but that was spot on. I was going to say that the challenge is that people think that the journey is all about themselves. They say, I've done this, I've done that, I can do this, I can do that. Join with me and I'll show you how I do all this. Nobody cares. The only thing they care about is what's in it for them. So when we talk about the hero's journey, which you've explained there brilliantly, is it's not that you are the hero in your story. If you want people to relate to you, you have to be the mentor. They're the hero. That's the key thing to doing it. And you've also got to add some other stuff, like we mentioned before, about monetization and the hedgehog and all that. That's what makes you an effective coach. And that's a really important skill to have when people are in lockdown, because everything across the planet has gone back to square one. You pressed a reset on what the career path is and what the earnings are. And one thing you've got is the ability to reach people digitally, which is what we're doing right now. So understanding that is key.
Correct. And as you possibly remember, everybody went into, well, you know, I'm going to be selling through webinars and I'm going to be selling through doing Zoom calls. While we thought, well, you know what, we have to think about the empathy. We have to get involved with people. We know that there's an opportunity by simply connecting with people. And, you know, we don't have to be trying to monetize immediately, because of course we need people to hear from us. So we started doing this show for 50 days and we were sharing, as I was mentioning, we were sharing every single thing that was happening, positive news, music, every single thing that was happening, and that get us to connect. Now here's the magic. You know how many pieces of content, and possibly you do not know the answer of for these days, you know how many pieces of content the Toilet Paper Diaries has created for us in YouTube only? 500 different videos that actually came from that. Now, tell me, do you think that this is a powerful asset to have right now in the virtual world? I love that clip. The only sad part about it's a little bit blurred, because of course in those days we were not as good running the internet, so of course it's a little bit blurred, but the sound is perfectly fine, and I think the content is great. Now on this next clip, I think it's really interesting. We're going to be talking about how to tell your story. Dave, how many times have we been told off by YouTube for using someone else's content?
I still have videos that have copyright warning written next to them, and I've got to go through and clean them all out. But the amazing thing is a lot of it is a copyright that I've actually paid for, my own copyright-free music that I've hired and bought, but it's still there. It's an ongoing challenge, and for anybody who's getting into making videos and content, especially if you're creating a magazine program, you really need to know what the music's coming from and which clips you're using, because if you don't do it the right way, your incredible show, your incredible channel can be taken off the air and your brand evaporates overnight.
So this is exactly why we wanted to bring this video again. This video itself in our YouTube channel has been watched about 3,000-4,000 times, because it's just a topic which is incredibly important, because you need to know how you can use some other people's content in fair use without actually violating the rights. So have a look. We're going to go with 5 recommendations, and we're going to be explaining to you every single thing that you need to do in order for you to look like an absolute pro, simply using someone else's content. So let's go to tip number 1.
Tip number 1, make it short. Before we get too deep into this tip, I want to make sure you understand something. Fair use law is a creation of lawyers and the courts. YouTube uses it as a guideline for determining whether or not they take down a video or not. However, YouTube is not a court, it's a company, and in this area, its main motivating force is not to get sued. So as a result, you could do your best to comply with all the fair use law and maybe even have a court say, yeah, that's a fair use. But the bottom line is YouTube still takes it down, and that's because they're concerned about being sued in this area. So as a result, we have to be super careful. We have to comply with fair use doctrine to a T, otherwise we risk copyright strikes, and if you get 3 copyright strikes, your channel is down. So let's be real careful when we comply with these rules that we talk about today. As a lawyer, I've argued fair use law to YouTube until I'm blue in the face. They always punctuate the conversation with the response, oh yeah, how much does it cost for you to post your own videos on our website? I always go, ew. So the copyrighted video or audio clips that you import into your YouTube videos, they've got to be short. Listen, there is no hard and fast rule for how long the clip should be. The shorter, the better. 1 second, 2 second, even if you gotta go to 30 seconds, just make sure you're following the tips that we're gonna discuss today, and you'll be safe from YouTube copyright strikes.
Right now, if you take a video from someone else and you integrate it into what you're doing, it could be 1 second, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. There's not really a rule. As long as you can integrate it and put it in a different context or giving it context. Now, there's 2 secrets here that I think that you need to know. First of all, if you are reporting the news, that of course already gives it, it already gives it a big fair use advantage. If you're using it for educational purposes, that also really helps getting the fair use advantage. Now, when you upload a video, they're going to tell you, well, YouTube is immediately going to tell you, you know what? This video has copyrighted material. And one of the things that you need to do is you need to make sure that you answer that complaint and you say, well, you know, my show is educational, my show is about news, and 95% of the times they tell you, well, you know what, you're fine. I mean, you can use it, not a problem. If they come back and tell you, you know what, I don't think that you can use it, then what you can use is just trim that bit on your video and then you will be fine. So don't be afraid of actually using someone else's content.
Yeah, and if you find that you've got a video that I mean, it's quite rare, but if you've got a video that's a challenge, then just get a still image and explain what the video was about, and then you'll be able to get away with it. And the simplest way of doing it is like we do. We talk about a video, we'll give you most of what's going to go on, apart from the actual meat of the sandwich. If we had to lose it, we could actually show that. We could show a video as it is and move on. Another way of doing it is actually show the video and talk over it. So it means that you're not actually hijacking the content and using it for yourself. So it doesn't get caught by the censors in the same way. You're just describing it and complimenting it and saying how useful it'd be for people to know what the explanation is. So there's lots of ways of generating really exciting content if you do come a cropper to that issue about the copyright and licensing it.
So let's go to tip number 2.
Tip number 2, comment or respond to the copyrighted work. The biggest mistake that I see on a daily basis is that YouTubers put in a copyrighted video clip or audio clip and then they don't comment on it or respond to it. They just let it sit there. There's that classic situation where there's a YouTuber and he's speaking to his girlfriend and then he splices in that clip from Casablanca. Here's looking at you, kid. Here's looking at you, kid. Wow, that was awesome. There's that other situation where there's YouTubers and they're fighting or they're arguing on camera and then they cut into that clip from Taxi Driver. Are you looking at me?
You talking to me? You talking to me?
No, sir, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to these beautiful folks. Now, would you kindly put your spring gun away? But in these examples, there is no comment, let alone a response, to the video clip or audio clip that these people are taking and putting in their own YouTube video. People, hear me. You have got to transform copyrighted work in order to qualify under fair use guidelines. Think about transformation of other people's art to avoid copyright strikes. This can be done by breaking down, commenting on, or responding to the clip you want to use. Just like I did. It's pretty simple. Whatever you do, you've got to transform that copyrighted work into your own. And that way you'll avoid YouTube copyright strikes and you won't jeopardize your channel.
So basically, this is exactly what we are doing. This was a 9-minute clip from Ian, the copyright lawyer. Right now, what we are doing is we're separating every single bit and we are also giving you our take on what he's saying. And then we are creating our own piece of content using also his piece of content. Does that make sense, Dave?
Absolutely. And what it does is it compliments him by saying that he's an expert on it. And it means that people want to keep watching us because it means we're bringing them content they hadn't heard of before. It might mean that you follow up by watching more stuff with him, or maybe you got enough from him at that point. And the content that we're creating, we're doing it deliberately so other people can then share it with others. I mean, one of the things is we show videos which are always very interesting, but we also explain how it all comes together. Not everybody's going to want to watch me and Ernesto. I can't understand why, because we are hot. but they still might want to actually see the clip and repurpose that instead. So there's lots of different ways of doing it. Think about your own way of doing it. Think about the clip, think about the content, think about your own delivery, and get better and smarter at being in competition with the clip. So you have to have people say, you know what, if I cut them out, it's not going to work so well because that clip doesn't really make that much sense. Let's put the two together, and that's great for your marketing.
Tip number 3.
Tip number 3, use the clip out of context. So let's say your channel is all about fashion and you're reviewing this particular outfit that you think is ugly. So you compare it to what 80s hair bands used to wear. And then you cut in Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. You are totally transforming the Guns N' Roses video clip. You know, the video was offered to show how cool Axl and company were, but you're using it as an example of uncool. You're taking it out of context, you're changing that video clip's meaning, you're transforming it, and therefore, you shouldn't be allowed to get a YouTube copyright strike.
Bow, bow, I'm dead, and I can sing high like that, and I can sing high. Jesus! Oh, whoa, whoa, sweet love of mine.
Brilliant.
If you take any piece of content, switch it or take it out of context, then you will be fine, which I think is just a great, great piece of advice. Next tip, we're going to go to tip number 4. And tip number 4 is also going to be very useful. Have a look.
Tip number 4, modify the original clip. There really are simple ways to create new art out of existing copyrighted art. You can make a mashup, a remix, or some sort of new expression of the copyrighted art. In my last video, I talked about the case of Carryow versus Prince. Click the card here to watch that video. You may remember in that case, Richard Prince added blue dots and a cutout guitar to an original photograph taken by Patrick Carryow. The court, in the later copyright infringement action, ruled that this was totally transformative and fell within fair use guidelines. You can do this too. You know, maybe not in the exact same manner, but check out this mashup between Ed Sheeran and Disturbed called The Shape of Sickness. You can watch the full video on this card here.
Drowning deep in my sea of loathing.
Totally transformative. Or check out this guy Dave Webb, who created an entirely new Seinfeld episode from deleted scenes, stand-up bits, and alternate takes. You can watch the full video by clicking the card here.
But I think to me the scariest thing in food is that expiration date on the milk.
Modifying the original art really does work. That Seinfeld episode we just saw, that's been up for 6 years without a takedown or a copyright strike. So yeah, it's gonna be more work for you. You can't just import a Seinfeld punchline into your video and call it a day. You're gonna have to transform it, but if you do, you'll be safe from YouTube copyright strikes.
So very interesting, because in a past life as a DJ, I remember when Rick James' Super Freak was repurposed by MC Hammer as Can't Touch This. And Rick James tried to sue MC Hammer and he couldn't do it because they said that it's a completely different song, which, let's be honest, it's exactly the same song. But what happened is, as this evolved, recently Marvin Gaye's estate sued Robin Thicke for Blurred Lines, which sounded like an original Marvin Gaye song, and won. Robin Thicke's song was a global hit for the entire year, played everywhere. The video was stunning. It launched him onto superstardom, but he ended up paying out $13 million to Marvin Gaye's estate, who didn't do anything to contribute to the song apart from be related to Marvin Gaye. So be very careful, because things are evolving all the time. Make sure what you're doing is adding art, but also, if you can, cross-reference it with what other people are doing to make sure you're on the right track.
There was just one thing that I wanted just to mention. You notice that he was doing, if you want to see this video, please look at this card. And if you want to see this other video, please look at this card. And if you want to see this other video, please look at that card. That is what YouTubers, which are professional, do. What are cards? There's two things that we haven't mentioned, and we have had in other episodes of Fast Forward. But the cards are basically you recommending your own videos so that you can actually create the binge watching effect in your YouTube channel. And that's just absolutely critical for you to understand. So how do you do that? Search for our videos and actually click here on this card, and you will see that we have a video showing you how to do that. Did you see how this is done? We are basically creating that effect. And I think that's super effective. So let's go to the very last tip, which is going to be tip number 5. Have a look.
Tip number 5, attribute the video or audio clip you're using to the original creators. A decent defense to a YouTube copyright strike, when used in combination to the tips we just discussed, is attribution. Attribution is simple. It's just citing to the original work of art in your description section in your YouTube video. It's really easy to do. I use the Modern Language Association format, which is this. You just put the name, title, website name, publisher, publication date, and the URL. If you copy this format and properly attribute the original creators of the art you're going to use, and you use the tips we previously discussed, then you will be protected from YouTube copyright strikes. Hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. You might even want to hit that bell and you'll be notified every Wednesday when a new Heart of the Matter video comes out. So now you're an expert on avoiding copyright strikes on YouTube.
So let's just get a couple of things which I think are very important. So if you're using someone else's content, please make sure that on the description of the video, you also give them the right there. That's also going to be protecting you. And also one of the things which I keep on mentioning, and you keep on seeing it, if you like all the information that we're showing us, please make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, make sure to comment, and make sure to ring the notification bell. You see, it's not that difficult to be a YouTuber. Even us, Generation X, or even you, Mr. Baby Boomer watching us there, you can definitely become a great and fantastic YouTuber.
Brilliant. So that explains a large amount of what you need to know about fair use, but you might still be a little bit confused. And this is where it's great going into the archives of the Toilet Paper Diaries, because Ernesto, I think you actually did a whole section on how to do this effectively so it doesn't disrupt your show, didn't you?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I throughout this year, I learned so much about fair use and copyright violations and how to use it correctly and whatever. So we explained you the theory in the previous video, but then in this one, it's a little tutorial so that you know exactly how it all works. Have a look. I'm going to be sharing with you something really exciting, something that you don't find openly, or at least in many places in the internet or in YouTube, where nobody tells you anything about it. So that's why it's great that you are right now here in the Toilet Paper Diaries, and we're going to be telling you about it. So this is just absolutely great. Possibly you have heard that people can get in trouble because of violating a copyright of using some music or using some video on YouTube, or I don't know, any problems that you have possibly heard about. All of those might be, in many cases, fears of urban myths. And now I'm not saying that these copyright strikes in YouTube don't happen, but if you understand what you're doing, you will be able to do a lot more with the content which is already available in YouTube. Mind you, I am not a legal advisor, I am not a legal counselor, so whatever you're doing, don't say that it was me that actually I told you to do it. Make sure that you know exactly what you're doing, or make sure that you ask a legal counsel. But anyway, let's just go straight and explain to you a little bit about one secret rule that no one is actually telling you about. And this is called fair use. Fair use on YouTube. And if you actually search for fair use on YouTube, you're going to find this page. This is the YouTube help page where they explain to you how it all works. So what are the 4 factors that they consider fair use, and how does it work? So first of all, let's just see fair use on YouTube. Fair use is a legal doctrine that says that you can reuse copyrighted protected material under certain circumstances without getting permission from the copyright owner. Wow! That is just something that you really need to understand. Fair use is a legal doctrine that says that you can reuse copyright protected material under certain circumstances, and that's the important part, without getting permission from the copyright owner. Here are some of the guidelines, and here are the 4 elements on how it should work. I'm not going to get into the legalese, so if you really want to learn everything about it, just simply search for fair use in YouTube, and it's going to take you to this page. But here is where I think it's very interesting. See, for example, in this example that they're actually telling you how fair use works, there is a cartoon from Disney. Disney is very strong with their copyrights. So can you actually use some of Disney's material for your content? The answer is yes, but how are you going to do it? Well, here's a video from Glenn Beck, which is an ex-anchorman from Fox News, and basically he's using the voice on this cartoon and changing what is actually going on the radio, and basically they are mixing his content and the other content to create another piece of content. That means that that is actually fair use. Once again, you need to check on every single one that you're actually doing so that you will know. Now, in this other example, which I think is also very interesting, it's about another guy talking about the news and talking about different stories of what happens, and he's using some bits and pieces of other videos which he actually found on YouTube, which actually are from the news, from ABC, CBS, NBC, whatever it is. So this is where it's just very interesting. In most cases, and once again, whenever I am using something for the Toilet Paper Diaries or for any of my content, what I do is I create the video, and then what's going to happen is, first of all, you're going to get a warning. Well, you know, your video cannot get monetized because you're using someone else's content, and then you basically appeal to the case, and 9 out of 10 times YouTube will say yes, okay, you're actually doing it under fair use, and there's no problem. Now, if you have 1 or 2 that they say, well, no, you're not allowed to use this content, then it's fine, you take it down. But once again, by using this, imagine the just incredible amount of content that you can remix with your content and create new incredible pieces of content. Now, you know exactly how this works, and now I think it's time for you to go and implement. I hope that you found this information useful.
So there we have it. That was great to know, Ernesto. Everything you need to know about fair use. We covered Super Bowls. We covered old people on the internet. We covered the best way to tell your stories. And hopefully we gave you a bit of a laugh during the whole experience. It's great to know that, first of all, it's not great to be in lockdown, but it's nice to know that the stuff that we were talking about a year ago is just as relevant. And if anything, Ernesto, more people are open to receive it than they were before because they've run out of things to watch on Netflix. That's going to be good for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also very interesting. Very soon, we're going to be in OTT television, which we're going to be letting you know a little bit more about it. OTT, by the way, is over-the-top television. So we're talking about in places like Hulu or Netflix, that kind of thing. And we're very excited about it. So we're always very grateful that you guys have been watching with us, that have been spending with us this full year. And we will continue, because I think I don't really see the end in sight, even though that you have your vaccination.
Well, quite clearly, the huge amounts of money that they made from making the Toilet Paper Diaries has shifted us from what was really like a kind of shelter in our back gardens to clearly living in luxury on penthouse suites in Houston and Dubai. So keep watching, keep bringing those advertising bucks in, and we'll see you on the roof. Hopefully not to jump, but just to share with you the Toilet Paper Diaries next time. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.